We have long-suffering Turquoise on the line, and she wants to talk about, she's kind of figuring out what label to use for herself, what she more identifies with, whether it be bisexual or pansexual. So Turquoise, you are on with Christy, Helen, and Nate. What's up?
Hi, nice to be on the show again. Nice to see you all. It's actually nice to see at least two bi people on the show. I'm sorry, Christy. I don't know. I don't know exactly what that implies. It's just three queer people who I can actually maybe who I think might have some authority on this question. So the thing is, I've always identified as bi, but recently a friend of mine who used to identify as bi realized they were pan instead, and they told me the reason for the change was because they learned that bisexuality is exclusive to trans and non-binary identities, and they're attracted to trans and NB people. The problem is that I have also been attracted to trans and non-binary people before as well, but the thing is, I've heard before that people have been recently been using the term bisexuality to be more inclusive of other genders, that more people have been using a definition that says bisexuality is the attraction to more than one gender as opposed to quote unquote the two genders. Mm-hmm. I went searching online to see what most people agreed that the definition was, but all I found was discourse. Everyone is arguing over whether or not the term is exclusive to trans people, especially those outside the binary. It also really doesn't help if you go to the Wikipedia page for bisexuality, because if you go there, the very second sentence says, it may also be defined as romantic or sexual attraction to people of any sex or gender identity, which is also known as pansexuality, which doesn't seem to be right. So my question is whether bisexuality is now considered to be exclusive of trans and NB people, as the Greek prefix of the word would imply, and if so, would pansexuality be the best alternative?
Etymology questions.
Yeah.
What do y'all got for this?
Prefixes are a bit of a pain. There is a lot of overlap between those two terms, and I think that what you're saying is more or less correct, in that bisexual is more the male and the female, and pansexual is more inclusive as to more than one gender. But the other thing that we have to remember too is that these terms are always in a state of evolution. They're not static terms, right? Like language changes all the time, and as this becomes more normalized, people are going to play with this, and people are doing that now, right? Like they're kind of playing with the definitions of it. So it's not like there really is a hard definition. I think a lot of it is that we have to choose for ourselves what sits with us and what makes me feel good and what do I feel comfortable with telling people and what feels right. How about you, Helen?
I know for myself, I've been identifying as bisexual since I was 15 years old. So, that's always the term because that's what it was when I was younger, that if you were attracted to both genders, you were bi. So I've always identified with that. And, now that, gender presentation and trans are, becoming more visible and part of, the normal experience we have, I would say I'm bi with a curiosity with trans people, with pansexuality, but I haven't really jumped into that pool yet because my experiences have been with cis men and women. So, that is kind of the water that I swim in. But, I always say all words are made up anyway, and we're going to come up with new terms and new ways that we're going to express how we express our sexuality and our genders. So, for me, I can kind of say that, use whatever term you feel comfortable with, if you want to use, pansexual, use pansexual. If you want to use bisexual, use bisexual. You don't have to completely settle on one word to embrace your identity, because like also too, I found that, you know, as these things start becoming more visible and the more education comes out of it, like it's such a movable piece of who you are, that those some terms are you're going to identify with, and then other ones you're going to discard. So, you know, I wouldn't worry so much about the label. I would just, like, you know, as you do more education and stuff like that, if there's a certain term that you feel comfortable with and identifies you, use that. I mean, like, you could use purple, like I'm purple, you know, and that's my sexuality. And, you know, it's because like you have to find something that makes you feel comfortable, you know, and not worry about, you know, how other people are going to perceive you. You know, I just say bi because that's the default I've always been, and that's the one I keep using. So
Yeah, no, I'm with you, Helen. All words are made up and the points don't matter. You know, ultimately, whatever feels right for you is great. And we can have this like very nuanced discussion and kind of have on this show before. And I've always kind of been on the other side of it. So forgive me for presenting this position. But a lot of people will say bi just means two, so, or more than two. So if you are interested in two genders or more than two genders, then it fits. And, you know, it gets tricky when we start talking about, well, is this, am I only attracted to cis men and cis women? Because I don't feel like that is a accurate understanding of what trans folks are or how they fit into these kinds of conversations. And so on the one hand, I'd like to lean into pan if you have any interest really outside of the like more than one gender. I would say pan is a really great word for that. But also people don't always understand what that means. And really any word that communicates the idea that you're trying to express to the people you're trying to express it to is the right word. You know, when you are talking to your grandmother, you might use a different term than when you are at a happy hour full of younger folks or whatever it is. I don't mean to imply that older folks never understand these things, but I would say that whatever gets you through life easiest. Right? Like, I don't know that you need to agonize over what label fits you best so much as how best to communicate who you are to the people you're talking to.
Okay. That's precisely why I've been agonizing. Over it, because I want to be able to describe myself in a way that makes me feel comfortable, but I also don't want to confuse anybody. Who, like, whatever the context may be, who I tell if I say, oh, I'm bi or I'm pan. Like lately, I've really been agonizing because if they, especially if I consider being pan, the thing is, I know I have a preference for women. So if pansexuality is by definition this kind of a disregard of gender in terms of attraction, does having a preference for women does that contradict that?
I don't think so.
No, not at all. I'll just say very briefly that you're in very good company. I'll have to look it up and put it in the show notes of this episode, but there was a great book by one of the folks who helped write the algorithm for Match.com, who found pretty overwhelmingly people who identify as bisexual generally have a preference. It's very rare to meet somebody who is like truly a 50-50 both team player. Even if you go both ways, you tend to be better at offense or at defense, and that's fine. That's part of the game.
I love it. Well played. Yeah, and I mean, if you're going to try to look for one word that explains who you are sexually, like, I don't know that word really exists, right? I don't think it's bi or pan. You know, if you're going to try to convey the nuances of who you're attracted to, it's going to take more than one word. So, you know, you don't have to be a slave to prefixes. You know, like there is gender is a dial, it's a spectrum. So like Christy was saying, right, you might be, you know, 7 towards men. Like me, myself, I'm much more attracted to men than I am to women, but I do still like boobies. So, you know, I'm definitely on that spectrum, right? Right. See, Christy, yeah. So it's like, it's not like you're ever going to find one word that quantifies where you stand on that spectrum. I mean, it's always going to have to be a conversation, and I mean that's not something that you should dread. You know, it's something that should be looked forward to, and you sound like you're doing pretty well with it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thank you. It's funny. I just lately I just having this. There's this visual I'm just having in my head where I feel like the best way to describe my orientation right now is if you imagine a chair in the middle of the room, and there are these 4 pride flags surrounding it. There's the bi flag, the pan flag, the sapphic flag, and the demi flag, the demisexual flag, and they're all physically fighting over this chair. And I just say, there, that's it. I feel like it's just like I feel like that's the most accurate way I can describe myself sometimes. And I'm like, wow, this is a mess. Stop fighting that.
Well,
you know, you can have more than one flagpole. Do with that inner joke inside your head whatever you want to do.
So your freak flag fly. Your many freak flags. It's fine because like you're going to like sexuality and gender expression, all these different things. They are not binary things. They're not like one or the other. You know, they move, they shift. They're flags flying in the wind, shifting around, doing different things. You know, and you just gotta go with the some days I feel very straight. On other days, I feel very gay. And other days, I feel nothing. So it's all about, you know, how you're feeling and what feels good for you to identify. And like, as Christy said, depends on who you're talking to, your social circle, all these different things. So don't get hung up on terms because, you know, like even for me, all the new terms has been a huge learning curve for me. And I'm still like, I know what I am, and I'm just going to keep using the term that I'm always using because using a new term is just going to drive me nuts. So,
yeah, just try to remember too. You know, language serves us, not the other way around.
Yeah, well said.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, thank you so much. I've been enjoying the discussion as well about passing. Whenever passing, if especially Helen, from what you were saying, since I was in a heterosexual relationship for a while, and I was in a lot of circles where, in hindsight, I realized that I'm not sure how well I would have done in those circles if people realized I wasn't straight. So,
I hear that.
I've really been appreciating that. Thank you so much.
Well, Turquoise, thank you for calling in. Yeah. We always enjoy it when you decide to give us a call and have a chat with us. So thank you very much for calling today.
All right. Thank you for having me. Y'all have a good night.
You too. Bye, Turquoise. It's a great call. Thank you.